At this point, I will call to order the City of Milton Common Council meeting on Tuesday, March 17th, 2015 at 7 o'clock p.m. And I'll ask for confirmation of the appropriate meeting notice.
The meeting was noticed at Milton City Hall, Piggly Wiggly, and Dave's Ace Hardware.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 2 is public comments regarding items which can be affected by council action. We have 4 registered speakers this evening, all on agenda item 4C. First up today is Bill Wilson. And Peg Ekdahl will follow right after. I should also mention we'll keep public comments per person to 3 minutes tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I'm actually first and we're tag teaming it. It's okay. Good evening. I'm Peg Ekdahl and I am a member of the library campaign, the leadership team. And Bill Wilson, as you know, is our library board president. We're speaking on behalf of all library supporters present tonight and throughout the community. We recognize the council will be making a difficult decision tonight, but we are encouraged that the decision is not an either-or decision, but one of sequencing based on the city's debt capacity. We've reviewed the options as presented by the administration and hope that as council members, you will follow the recommendation to approve the resolution to borrow funds to finance the library and Parkview projects. It's, as my good friend John Platts has reminded us on more than one occasion, plans to use the complete Shaw building for public library use were part of the original purchase by the city when the college closed and buildings came up for sale in the mid-1980s. And that original agreement provided rent for operational purposes from 2 tenants, CISA 2 and the School District of Milton, until such time as the library had need for the space. Well, that time was recognized by the Common Council in 2003 with a formal vote to renovate the library when the city offices vacated the second floor.
That was the 2013 vote that Peg was talking about. When the process began, one of the major selling points for the library occupying the entire Shaw building was to create a destination in response to the Highway 26 bypass. Certainly, a delay of the library until 2020 is pretty late for a response to the Highway 26 bypass. The library staff, library board members, foundation members, enthusiastic citizen leaders really took on the challenge that was presented to us. We organized, in some cases, we were encouraged to go out and raise funds. On a couple of occasions, we were even criticized for not being fast enough in raising funds. We really believe that the library does provide a destination, that it does bring people into town. We have over 3,000 registered borrowers from beyond the city limits that come to the library. We got busy and we did some things on our own. The Library Foundation funded the conceptual study. The fundraising feasibility study, the Library Foundation loaned us money to go forward with that. We really didn't have any working capital. The dollars that were put in the bond cannot be used for those kinds of purposes. So we were starting really with nothing. And often, in fact, members of the committees dug into their own pockets in order to bring about things like the campaign materials, to have the operating funds to get going. All of these steps, the hiring of the fundraising consultant, the conceptual study, all of those things have been done without tax dollars. We've raised the money to do that. If we don't go forward with this plan, the dollars that have been spent on this really are dollars that we'll have to do all over again. A fundraising campaign that's delayed for 5 years really has to start all over again. we're faced with at least one foundation gift of $50,000 that we've received that we'll have to return because it's incumbent on it being spent by 2016. So there are dollars that would have to go back. There will be dollars that we'll have to raise all over again to restart a fundraising effort.
We'd like to outline the three main segments of the campaign. They run concurrently, not sequentially, and each of them has a goal of approximately $750,000 to $1 million. I'm going to talk briefly about the community segment. You've probably heard the most about that one at this point in time. To date, we have raised more than $506,000. That did include the original investment of $152,000 from the city to begin the renovation process. We have a lot of requests in process, and it has been divided into specific components. You have heard, I know that you are aware of the 100 Women campaign. We have, across the board, the different leaders, whether it be foundation, library board, or the folks on the campaign, have all contributed personally. Agricultural committee is hard at work and poised and ready to go to their members, and we have already had donations coming from the FFA alumni. The Milton College Preservation Society has also given us money, or pledged money. We have a men's campaign getting ready to go, and we were just told a day or two ago that the Northside students have started a penny war, which is another small but significant indication that there are people looking forward to moving ahead here.
You have 1 minute left.
Okay. If the dollars are not approved this evening, it's going to stop the campaign's momentum, certainly. I want to reiterate the fact that we'd have to raise funds again in order to move forward. The dollars will allow us to do the health, safety, and infrastructure changes that need to be done for us to move forward with the project.
Just in summary, we do believe that voting to approve that option is a responsible and prudent decision for the future, and we appreciate you listening to us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to speak this evening is Maxine Striegel on agenda item 4C.
Maxine Striegel, I live at 1012 Sioux Lane. I would like to just take you back a couple years here, and when our three main projects were a fire station, a DPW, and a police station. At the time, we were ready to do that. The township was not, so we went with the DPW building. Then the opportunity came for this building, and so we thought it would be ideal for the police department. Well, then the next thing we know, we have plans drawn up for an addition for a new city hall and a council and court chambers. So a few of us were afraid that that might take away from the police department, but we were told it would not. So this building was built, pushing back the fire department again. Now you have on your list here, option 1, a new library, option 2, a fire station. We also have a commitment with the township that was signed to build a new station by 1618. Now, to me, granted, the library, when we moved out of the city hall, it was my understanding that the library knew that there would be no funding for remodeling this building until we had a new fire station. Now, as far as I can see, the only option you have the decision to make is to go along with the agreement that you have signed, the previous mayor has signed, that we go ahead and vote to build that fire station. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last to speak this evening is Tom Chesmore, also on agenda item 4C.
Council has to make some pretty hard decisions tonight. Unfortunately, no matter which way we go, it puts the city in a very precarious position financially. This is probably the worst off financially I've seen the city in a long time. Everybody expects me to get up here and cheer for a new fire station and tell you how bad it is. It is bad. You got mold growing on the walls, you got cracks in the ceiling, you got cracks in the side of the walls, it's sinking in all the corners. All of these projects that you guys are looking at tonight are all worthwhile. And I think probably the best way to go, and I know some of the firemen aren't going to be happy about it, anything else, but go ahead and vote for the street and the library, get those off the table. And then concentrate on the big picture. Because promises were made for about the last 10 years to this fire department. And I did sign an agreement with the township to build. Now, I realize no one's obligated to follow that agreement, but it would be the right thing to do. But I'm not even going to get in how I feel about that. But the big picture is the city is doing a lot of disservice to their fire department. I understand the importance of the library. I was a huge library supporter when I was mayor, even when I was on the council. Unfortunately, we used to do things in steps. The library coming and asking for $750,000 was not in those steps at this time. The fire station, again, gets pushed back. I realize when you look at the fire station cost, it's huge. It's mind-boggling what the things cost. But for every year you push that off, the cost only increases. We were looking at probably $3.5 million for our half last time. My guess is it's probably right around $4.5 million now. The price of construction just costs that.
Thank you very much. We will move on to agenda item 3, which is the approval of tonight's consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mayor, I would make the motion to approve the consent agenda, excuse me, other than the common council meeting for March 3rd.
You would like to pull down common council minutes from March 3rd?
Yes.
Okay.
We need to make a correction on that.
Was that correction has not been made in another meeting yet? All right, great. We'll pull down agenda item 3A. We'll make that agenda item just ahead of agenda item 4A. We'll do it first thing in new business. With that amendment, is there a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
That was your motion? Motion by Clark, second by Roosh. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 4, new business. First item is the common council minutes of March 3rd, 2015. Alderperson Clark? Yes. You push your microphone, please.
For those minutes, item number 4C1, direct staff to research a funding plan to bring to the library up to code. The alderperson that made that motion was Anissa, and then I seconded that.
You have that? All right, we've made that change. Any other changes to those minutes? If none, then a motion to approve would be in order.
Move to approve.
Motion by Lauder,
Second.
second by Welch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 4A is discussion and possible action on approval of a purchase order for the Water Department and Treatment Plant SCADA work for 2015.
Okay, these were in the budget for 2015 for both water department and treatment plant. This is the SCADA system, which is the supervisory control and data acquisition system. It's the alarm system for down there. It also does the monitoring of the system with the chlorine levels, of the equipment that goes on down at the plant. It's a 24-hour system. We have one that's 10 years old. We did some upgrades last year. This is the remaining upgrades for those. It takes care of the lift stations, the wells, and some of the, the effluent pumps down at the treatment plant. It keeps the guys from having to be there 24 hours a day. And since it's over $10,000, it needs council approval. The quotes from L.W. Allen. They're the company that installed it originally, and they were the low bid company at that time. It's $29,483. And that was for the equipment. It's split into the two. The treatment plant is $15,109, and the water department is $14,374. So, if that was approved, they would like to start the work on that this spring.
Questions or discussion from the council?
Was that a budgeted item, Howie?
Yes, that is, and it's below the budgeted estimate. So.
It's a motion by Adams, second by Brewink. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 4B is discussion and possible action on approval of participation in the state of Wisconsin salt bid.
Okay, for the last, for about the last 6 years, we have participated in the state salt bid. What they do is they buy a quantity of salt, and otherwise we'd have to go out individually to the individual salt companies. Last year we paid $65.46 a ton for salt by being in the contract. Previously, back in 2008, on our own, we paid $73.82 a ton. So being in the contract with a lot of quantity has a benefit for us. And because it's a contract with the state, that's why I was to send in for a contract. That's why I was asking for council approval to continue doing that program.
I'll make that motion. We continue the program.
We have a motion by Brewink, second by Roosh. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 4C is discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 2015-3, resolution authorizing the issuance of and sale of $1.35 million in general obligation promissory notes and approval of Quarles and Brady engagement letter. Administrator Hulick.
Thank you. Tonight I prepared a presentation that the folks in the audience can view on the screen. I've also provided that in the packet for the council members if they want to flip through with me as I go through this. It'll be very brief. It's 15 slides, but it'll be brief. As talked about by a number of previous speakers, when I came into this position in September of 2014, it was made pretty clear to me even before I took the position that the city of Milton faced three major projects on its short-term horizon. Those are the fire station, Parkview Drive, and the library. We knew those projects were coming, that they had to be taken care of, and everybody was kind of in an agreement that those three were the big ones. To give a little information about each one of those projects, the fire station was constructed in 1976. It does have known structural and code issues within the facility. In 2012, the council approved Resolution 2012-19, which expressed intent to continue the process of planning and preparing for the potential construction of a fire station in 2016 or 2018, sometime in that time. At that time, the resolution, I also believe, estimated that cost to be at about $5 million. The cost projections now, we don't have updated figures, but it's projected to be between 4 and 6 is a safe estimate, 6 plus. The library was built in 1967. In 2013, the city council agreed to renovate the library and actually borrowed $152,000 to begin that renovation process by demolishing items on the second and third floor in order to begin preparation for the library to take over those floors. In 2014, City Hall relocated to the building we're in today and vacated the Shaw building, which would be the future home for the library. Parkview Drive is now considered one of the new gateways to the city. We've seen an incredible increase in the amount of traffic that is on that street since the Highway 11 or since the Highway 26 bypass came through. The total construction cost for that project, if we were to do the entire project, would be about $4.9 million. That's a substantial amount of dollars, but it would be split between the general fund or the tax levy and the utility funds about even, $2.5 million and $2.4. It's important to note that not only is this a gateway to the community that sees more traffic now than it ever has in its life, it's also currently the worst rated street in the city of Milton by Pacer rating. Pacer is the system that we use in order to gauge the lifespan of the street and the condition of the street. There are other streets in the city that have a 3 rating, but there's no streets that are worse than a 3. So what is being presented tonight is an opportunity to raise that Pacer rating up and bring that street into a better condition for the traveling public, and also deal with some of the drainage issues that are found down that street at a cost of $600,000. That will get us an additional 5 to 7 years of that. And if folks in Milton know, we'll probably get more out of it than that. So it could be money well spent. What we know, in February of this year, February 17th, the Personnel and Finance Committee directed staff to develop a funding strategy to bring the library into code compliance. That was voted on at Personnel and Finance and directed staff to do so. Staff then brought that strategy forward at the March 3rd council meeting, which was just 2 weeks ago. And that strategy was approved, and was requested that staff finalize that strategy and bring it for you this evening, which is actually File Resolution 2015-3. Outside of that resolution, though, we know that there's been considerable discussion amongst the options as they've been described that we have available to us. And really what we have is a situation in which we can fund the library and Parkview Drive improvements today. However, by doing so, that will push the construction back of the fire station to potentially 2019. Or we could construct the fire station in 2018, moving that up a year. However, that would push the library back and Parkview back to 2020 at the earliest. All of these projects are very important. As one of the speakers noted, they're all very important. It's impossible to find an objectable way to say one project is more important than the other. I wouldn't want to be in that situation, and it would be hard to define. But what's important is the staging of these projects. We have an opportunity to do all 5 projects, or all 3 projects in the next 5 years, or we can do one project in the next 5 years. That's what's before the council this evening. Option 1 would be to fund the library in Parkview in 2015 and therefore potentially construct the fire station in 2019. Or, if I can, went too fast. Or potentially construct the fire station in 2018, 1 year earlier, and therefore push the library in Parkview back to no earlier than 2020. Again, in conclusion, as discussed in the newspapers and in a lot of the chatter that's been out there in the community, these are all very important projects to the city of Milton, and it's very hard to rank these projects objectively. The variables to each one of these projects are unique. As you've heard at previous meetings, the fire department has developed a new staffing schedule, which makes more people at the station for nighttime stays, which makes it very difficult because the sleeping quarters are not ideal. They've also have structural issues at the fire department as well. However, the library has gone on a funding endeavor and has raised considerable funds. So each one of these projects is unique, so it's very hard to pit one against the other, and that's not what we're here to do tonight, and everybody's been very good about that, and we appreciate that. But one important thing to note is that the assumptions are unpredictable for future years. I've made the analogy before, it's like trying to predict the weather forecast. If I want to know what the weather's like on my birthday, which is May 12th, I probably could find a website that would say what it is. But the odds of that being right are very difficult. When you start to go that far out in the future, things change. As we've seen with the drop in equalized value for the community that we saw last year, that had an impact on our ability to borrow by close to $1 million. So variables change. And that makes things difficult to predict moving out into the future. Our debt capacity is the critical factor here when we're talking about these projects. I've used the game plan before of it's not a matter of can we do it, because we can. It becomes a matter of should we do it. And Finance Director Dan Nelson talked about the affordability of these projects. And one of the previous speakers spoke to this. Regardless of what we do, the city of Milton is going to be in a difficult spot moving forward with our finances, in the sense that our debt capacity is very, very high. And it makes things difficult to do projects and to stage them. But that's why the staging is key. And that's why the staging of these 3 projects is key. Again, File Resolution 2015-3 sets the stage for all three of these projects to potentially be completed in the next 5 years. And that's an opportunity that the council has tonight to look at and discuss. There are a lot of variables, as I said, and a lot of assumptions being made in these projections, but it's important to keep all those things in mind when looking at the information that's available to you. We have an opportunity here to potentially do all three in the next 5 years, or do one in the next 5 years, but predictability is going to be difficult. With that being said, I'll turn it over to Dan Nelson, who has the resolution and can talk about the funding package that has been developed by staff and brought forward for you tonight, and then we're obviously available for questions and discussion at that point as well.
One of the things before I get into the nitty gritty details, so to speak, on the resolution is the financial health of the city is actually very, very good. We've financed close to $600,000 out of fund balance to help build this building, and we've also committed $300,000 this fiscal year towards equipment for the fire department that is coming out of the city's fund balance. Had we not used fund balance or had the ability to do that, we would have had to borrow close to $1 million just to complete those two projects. As far as the resolution before you guys tonight, that I was asked to see what the feasibility was of trying to do a local borrowing, since these are two really good community projects. Instead of sending the money off to New York and to investors that no one really knows who they are, what would it be? What could we get a reasonable interest rate by keeping the money local and recirculating those dollars? And both financial institutions in town came back with an interest rate of 2.65%, which mirrors what recently competitively bid bonds and notes have sold for in the past month. And so I believe that what you have before you saves the taxpayers $25,000 in issuance costs, because the city doesn't have to go out to that competitive market and get Moody's rating calls and pay financial advisors and things of that nature. The issuance costs for this are relatively small, $5,500 to bond counsel to provide a legal opinion. And if you guys have any questions about that aspect.
Questions and conversation from the council?
I have a question on Parkview Drive. If you remill it, will the drainage issues be addressed?
Yeah, they've got, about 30% of that money was for storm sewer work and curb and gutter work. So they're gonna work on the drainage issues with it. Yeah.
Okay, because they are real.
Yeah.
Alderperson Adams.
I guess the previous speakers have hit on items that I was concerned with. Number one is the city has been able to do our major projects because we were able to prioritize projects by their needs and then focus on that project till it was finished. Reference the public works and now the police department. Where things started to fall apart was in the planning. We bought the Dean building and designed the police department in it. All of a sudden we had the city hall moved in there, and each time we made these changes, I and several other council members asked, what does that do with the fire department? We were assured there was no problem. Now, I asked before we approved the city hall plans, does this affect the police department? No, it won't affect the police department. Well, it did, because they lost part of their garage down there in order to keep it in budget. And then we committed $150-some thousand to get the revisions to the library started, and they were told at the time not to expect any additional fundings for some time because we had major commitments ahead of us. We have signed documents where we committed to make the move on the fire department. Now, everybody can say that, it's hard to prioritize, but I'll tell you where my priority lies. I'm disgusted to think that those firemen and EMTs have got to live and sleep in that facility one day longer than they have to. And that's been totally disregarded. We got financial issue that's going to affect the city for a long-term period, I think we ought to be waiting until mid-April when the new council and mayor take seats, and I would like to make that motion right now to table it until then.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Adams, a second by Alderperson Lauder, to table this matter until after the election in April. Any further discussion from the council?
What I would like to do is to give out copies of what was signed as a commitment to the fire department. I don't know if you've gotten. But we did commit in 2013 to have a joint fire department built between 2016 and 2018 in writing. And I would like to understand how effective that piece of paper is. And I really don't know. I would prefer to ask my attorney because he's wiser at these things.
The joint resolution, as it states in its wording, is one of intent for fire department development plans. And so what it does is sets forth the intent of both the town and the city to move forward to plan for and prepare for the potential construction of a jointly owned station between the years 2016 and 2018. So that indicates the intent of both municipalities with a minimum commitment of $2.5 million per municipality. However, it's not a legally binding intergovernmental agreement, if that's what you were inquiring about. It's a statement of intent and what both municipalities intended, but it's not an intergovernmental agreement as such.
Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
I would just like to remind the council that prior to the completion of the bypass, there were discussions about the condition of Parkview Drive and the expected traffic that was going to be coming onto Parkview Drive. I can tell you for sure that I was one of those people that said it's coming on Parkview. What are we going to do with that road? It needs some work done. We have to work on the entrance of that city. So I suppose if you're going to go back to discussions and things that were formerly said, I would have to say that previously we were assured that Parkview Drive was going to be addressed after the study from Janesville, the joint study that took effect, that actually verified that most of the traffic is coming in first on Parkview Drive, second on John Paul Drive, and then third Highway 59. So there is also a commitment that we need to take into consideration. That was during the time and where the splash pad was actually being planned.
The motion on the floor, can you read the motion? Do you have the motion?
The motion is to table this item until after the election on April 7th, 2015.
So I will have a roll call vote here in a second, but a vote in favor of this motion defers the decision on this at least a month to a new council. Can you call the roll?
Yes. Alder Adams?
Pardon?
Alder Adams?
Roll call vote.
Your vote.
On whether to table this until after the election.
Yes.
Alder Adams, aye. Alder Clark?
Nay.
Alder Clark, no. Alder Lauder?
Aye.
Alder Lauder, aye. Alder Roosh?
No.
Alder Roosh, no. Alder Ruring?
No.
Alder Ruring, no. Alder Welch?
No.
Alder Welch, no. Motion fails.
Okay, thank you very much. Before you tonight is information regarding addressing both the library's infrastructure needs and a mill and overlay for one of the city's worst and most heavily used roads. I wanted to just briefly address when the City Hall vacated Shaw, we wrongly assumed that the library would be able to expand into the second floor fairly seamlessly in the short term and utilize that space nearly immediately. Because, however, the city in the last 30 years did not keep that building up to code. It's not ADA compliant. Its safety and HVAC systems require updating for new uses. We determined pretty quickly that the budget that was originally projected was going to grow because of deferred maintenance costs that the city rightfully should have taken care of over the years. A few years ago, and I've said it 100 times, so I apologize if you heard it, the city bought that building and did major renovations to the elevator, to the roofing system, to the HVAC system, and to certain other areas. And we've still, to date, only spent a little over $1 million in over 30 years on that facility. That makes it by far our least funded and most efficient building in the city. We have the library that is the most popular within the county system, and we operate out of just about half the space that our space needs study says we should be operating out of. We don't have dedicated spaces for all the various users for that facility, and we have an opportunity here to complete the deal and have that space renovated. And best of all, we can do a short-term fix of Parkview Drive and keep the fire department on track to be completed by 2019, just at worst about 12 months later than we had originally hoped. That, as our administrator said, gets all 3 projects done in the next 5 years, all 3 of them. And those of us who have been on the council for some time know that if you were here 5, 6, 7 years ago, this city was faced with an even bigger plate of deferred projects. The previous councils hadn't spent a penny, certainly not spent a penny particularly wisely. Sometimes when those pennies were spent, they were spent renovating facilities that were just about ready to fall down in the case of the police department. The improvements that we've made in infrastructure certainly have been necessary. The library certainly is a quality of life piece, but it also is an economic driver for the city, and it is by far the most utilized facility within our city. Now, what's even better is that the city doesn't have to pay for the whole brunt of it. The city is being asked to, in addition to the $150,000 that we've already committed, pay for $750,000 of a nearly $3 million project. That will again make it our most efficient building project. The commitment is real that we make to the fire department, that we make to the firefighters, that we make to the chief and to the staff there. That project has to get done, and it will get done. It is complicated to get it done because it's a jointly owned department. And this resolution, if nothing else, illustrates how complicated it is. This is a resolution to agree to continue to talk about maybe agreeing to something at some point. And that something is going to require planning and cost estimates. It will probably require additional administrative space. It will require a lot of work over a lot of years in order to make sure that the department that we build is the department that we need. But today, while that work is ongoing, we have an opportunity to pass a resolution and a borrowing that keeps dollars local here to double the size of our library, to improve our worst road in our city, and keep the fire department basically on track to be in a new facility by 2019. Yes, it's 12 months later than we hoped, but that's a fact. It's on schedule, and it's this decade, which is better than they used to tell you. We'll get all 3 of those done. So I'm hoping the council passes this. I'm hoping we can get this going. I know a lot of folks in the audience feel different ways on it. If there's any further discussion from the council, we can do that, but you have a recommended action before you.
Well, I just wanted to comment how difficult this decision is. I know I've heard in the past and repeated recently, well, the council comes to the table and they already have their minds made up. And they come up there and they make a vote and they've already decided in a back room or over the phone or however that the decisions have already been made. And I can't speak for everybody, but I think it's safe to say that we try to be as thoughtful as we possibly can and to take everything into consideration. This is a very, very difficult decision. Nobody wants to break the hearts of firefighters. We know a lot of you are working in Janesville, and you come to Milton and you work here too, and you're dedicated to this community. You have integrity, you have character, you give all your heart and soul to this community when you go out to save people's lives and their structures. So it's a very difficult decision. We also, as a council, have to look at the overall good of the city as a whole, and we have to look at, you know, what can we do, and where everybody gets something. You guys get $300,000. We've spent almost $1 million on equipment. We've done very well, I think, in trying to keep your equipment updated. That's not easy for us to do all the time either. We have something we can do with Parkview, and we have something that we can do with the library. Nobody gets everything that they want. The library doesn't get the city to fund its complete renovation. They get part of it. We don't get a completely redone Parkview. We get an overlay. And the fire department, you know, has a delay. So nobody gets what they want. No matter what, no matter how we vote, nobody's gonna get what they want. And it makes it very difficult for us to have to make these decisions, but this is what you elected us for. So you guys don't have to sit up here and make these decisions. And it's not like there's a lot of people running for city council and mayor right now. So we know that you guys don't want to make these decisions either. I think it's a very positive that we can keep these dollars local. That's huge for our economy. That's a great thing that we can partner with the banks. That's something that I've talked about for a long time, is public and private partnerships and civic organizations. So I think that's a big positive for us. I think it's an opportunity, and I know that a lot of people have categorized things as, well, we got off track, or we did this wrong, or we did that wrong. But this is an opportunity for everybody to get something. So that's my opinion, that nobody gets everything, but at least everybody gets something that's positive.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say too, as Alderman Wells said, that this was not an easy decision. I thought about, after last meeting, I thought about this a long time, and Dan will tell you, I made a phone call to him and had a lot of ideas I threw at you about how we could do all these things, right? And of course, I don't know what the finance law and stuff is, because I wanted to be able to do all these projects and satisfy everybody. I asked him about if we could extend some of our loans that we have longer, and those kind of things. And so I had to get that information from Dan to think about this. I look at our options that are available, and the most prudent thing to do, taking emotion out of this, is if we delay projects until 2018 and 2020, you know the interest rates are going to start going up. I think the Fed Reserve met today, and I don't know what they do with interest rates, but you know that they're going to go up. So the longer we delay projects, we're going to have to pay more in interest rate, which isn't the most prudent thing to do in my mind. And I really grapple with this decision, but somebody who spent, this is my 40th year I've been in a classroom, somebody who spent 40 years walking by libraries and being in a classroom and taking kids into a library, and then the time that I spent as a student in school, it's a difficult decision. Yet I know how important the fire department is, and I appreciate the job they do. Some of those people back there were students of mine, and I appreciate the work that they do, and it's a difficult decision to go with. And so my decision is going to be what I believe is the most prudent thing to do.
Additional comments from the council?
I won't go through all of that because you've heard a lot of it, but I too have done my research and feel that this is the best decision. But I do respect all of your work and all of the time that you put in, either volunteering as a member of the library, and the time that you put in there, the work that you do as firemen or EMTs. And I know that everything you do is meaningful to the community, and you do deserve the respect that that we can give you, but as has been said, it doesn't all come at once. So, thank you.
I'm just going to reiterate that this has been a very hard decision to make. I have been in the fire department. I have talked to the firefighters. I've talked to the library people, the supporters. I've talked to the people that are driving down Parkview Drive, the people that have necessary car repairs. I've talked to the neighbors that live on Parkview Drive. This really is one of those times when public input is very important to me, especially. I just want to say that I am in support of doing the 3 projects, and the reason that I am is because I know that we're talking about a difference between 1 year when you really get down to the nitty-gritty of a date and a schedule. And I really feel that it is important that we have the budgeting and the needs all straightened out with our fire department before we proceed to do any more with a major project. However, that said though, I am very well aware that there are things that need to be done in that building, and I am asking that our fire commission hopefully at the next meeting will take a look and totally review with the chief what we need to do to that building. And I know that there's a lot of money involved there, but I also know that, as far as I know, I haven't seen any numbers or any figures of exactly what we can do to improve what it is there right now for you in the way that you're living there now. And I also just want you to know that there is not anybody in the city of Milton that does not support the Milton Fire Department. And I'm sure that I could say this very same thing for the township of Milton. Everybody supports the fire department. Everybody appreciates what's going on there and all of the things that you guys do. Everybody does. So I would like for...
Use the mic, Linda.
I'm on it. I'm on it. It's on.
I'd like to ask Howie something. Are you done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
Howie,
Go
can
ahead.
you talk about, with Parkview Drive specifically, can you talk about the timing and how much of this work, if any, would be able to be accomplished yet this season?
If you pass the resolution tonight, they could start doing the bid work tomorrow, and they could bid it out. You're not gonna get as favorable of a bid as if you had done this, early January, but there's still a possibility it can be done yet this year. Like I said, every time if you want it done this year, you're putting a little tighter constraints on it. But from what our engineers have told us, it's still possible to get it done, but you'd have to start right away, like tomorrow, to start on it.
So that'll be a decision for the council to make if they want to accept those initial bids or wait until next year?
Well, we have to bid the project out yet. so,
Right.
But, yeah, and then you could, if you get the bids and they're not what you like, you could rebid it for 2016.
Okay, any further discussion from the council?
Mayor,
Yes.
can I make a motion, or I guess maybe I should ask Mark? Will I be able to make a motion for the library commission to look into these immediate needs during this meeting?
Do you want the fire commission?
For the fire commission. I'm sorry. Fire commission.
I would say no. I think you've indicated your thoughts in that regard, but that's not an action item, so you need to be limited to the agenda in terms of actual action items.
We're all here and listening, Linda. All 3 of us are on the commission. We know what to ask for.
Well, Dave, I haven't seen
And I'm sure
anything
you'll
in
be
a
there to
few.
tell us what to do.
There hasn't
Right.
been a list of major repairs put together because they weren't prepared to get thrown under the bus again.
The recommended action tonight, unless there's further discussion, is to approve resolution 2015-3, authorizing the issuance and sale of $1.35 million in general obligation promissory notes, and the contract with Quarles and Brady to provide legal guidance with this financial transaction.
So moved. Second. There you go.
You got the second?
You got it. Go for it.
It's a motion by Roosh, second by Welch. Any further discussion? I'll ask for a roll call.
Alder Adams.
No.
Alder Adams, no. Alder Clark.
Aye.
Alder Clark, aye. Alder Lauder.
No.
Alder Lauder, no. Alder Roosh.
Yes.
Alder Roosh, aye. Alder Vrubring.
Yes.
Alder Vrubring, aye. Alder Welch.
Aye.
Alder Welch, aye. Motion passes.
A motion required a 4-2 vote, so that motion is successful.
Thank you for coming to the meeting.
And with that, we'll move on to general items. Our next meeting is Wednesday, April 8th, 2015 at 7 p.m. I believe that is the last meeting with this council. Any other general items? I never asked that. All right, mayor and alderpersons reports. Any alderpersons reports?
I would like to, oh, go ahead. You go first.
As you know, I'm the co-chair of the Milton Youth Coalition, and we are partnering with Janesville Mobilizing for Change, and we are holding a heroin town hall meeting. There's actually going to be 3 throughout the county. There's going to be one in Janesville, one in Beloit, and there's going to be one in Milton, and it's going to be at the high school April 28th. It's going to be, I believe, from, I shouldn't say the time because I'm not positive, but I think it's 6 to 7:30 is the time for the heroin town hall meeting. We really have an excellent panel of experts to talk about various areas and aspects of heroin addiction and how it affects our community. And there will be posters throughout the community, and we hope that you will help us spread the word, because this is a serious issue in Rock County, and we're doing everything that we can to educate people and to save lives.
Excellent, thank you very much. Any other alderpersons reports?
Yes.
Yep.
I would like to announce that last night our Park and Recs Committee approved adding on to our Veterans Memorial. We're going to add 2 wings on each side, one for MIA and wounded, and another one for POWs as well. So that project is going to get underway. We've raised some money for it, and so as we raise the money, we'll be adding to the wing. So and we're going to add some benches with backs on them, so people who come who have a difficult time sitting on the benches we currently have, we're going to get benches with some backs for those who can't sit without the backs on them. So I think it'll be a great addition, and I hope that we can get this done in the next couple of years. We're also looking for a helicopter if somebody has something to fly in, so we could put there. But we know the shell costs us $80,000, so that's not going to happen. But if you find one somewhere, please let us know.
Be on the lookout. Any other alderpersons reports?
Mayor, I would
Yes.
just like to make the comment to the general public. There's a lot more people out walking and biking now, so let's just be aware of those kids that are out there, because especially the kids, we know that they're not paying attention. They've got their ears on and their faces down in their little palm pads.
Thank you. Any other alderpersons reports? Okay. I don't really have much of anything. I guess the one thing I wanted to say is it's not a secret to, I don't think, anybody in the room, that our police chief has accepted a position as police chief of the village of Cottage Grove, up in a land far away in Dane County. And I wanted to take this opportunity. I gave a short interview to the Gazette today, and I wanted to reiterate just briefly what I said. Our department is now one of just about two dozen in the state who achieved accreditation. We're the only department that did that, I believe, without adding staff, without adding additional resources. They did it within the constraints of their existing budget. We have been fortunate to have had some great leaders in our police department. And certainly Dan Labor is one of those leaders who has impacted our community tremendously in a positive way. We wish desperately that we can keep everyone that we have on staff. We believe that the team we have is the team we want, and we would love to keep everyone forever and ever. But we also recognize it's not always possible. And so we are so appreciative of the years that you gave the city, Chief, and we're so appreciative of the things that the department has accomplished. And we know that because of your efforts and the efforts of chiefs before you and the staff there, that those successes will echo and be residual going into the future. So thank you so much. I just wanted to say that publicly. That's it. Staff reports. City Administrator.
Thank you. Just a couple items. Before this meeting, we had the Public Safety Commission meeting, and at that meeting, the chief informed us that he would be hiring his 4th part-time officer, which brings them up to full staff, which means for the first time in my 6 months, we're at completely full staff, which is only going to last for another 45 days. So, thanks for those 45 days. It was a good run. One important thing to note to get on everybody's calendar, I know I talked about it last meeting, I'll talk about it again on April 8th, is that the April 14th Plan Commission meeting is going to be a very important and productive meeting in which we're going to meet with our consultant to help craft the update to the comprehensive plan as well as the update to the Junction Square plan. So we encourage everybody in the public to attend that meeting. The consultant will be here to give kind of an overview of what their plan of attack is going to be throughout the year. There'll be several other opportunities to join in and provide your input, but that will be the kickoff meeting, so that'll be an important meeting. So please, if you can attend that evening, that would be great.
That's with the existing Plan Commission.
Yes. Yep. Last item, I was asked to give an update because a lot of people are asking and wanting to know about the progress on progress or lack thereof on County M. As folks recall, at the March 3rd meeting, the City Council directed myself and our contract city attorney to continue to work with the developer to see if there was any means to an end with that project. We have continued those discussions up until about the point of about 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, when all of those conversations basically ceased. And that was not necessarily by any choice of ours on the city staff, but we have not had any contact back from the developer for about 7 days. So you can make of that what you'd like. We're going to be, the city's contract attorney will be providing a written overview of where we are with that project and the correspondence that took place since March 3rd. And we look forward to getting that to the council hopefully tomorrow. I have not seen it yet myself, but I was asked to give that update, and I wanted to make sure people were all on board. It's important that we all kind of stay informed on these issues, and I'm happy to give that update. And if folks have additional questions, you can certainly contact me at any time as well. So those are all the items I have for the administrator report.
Thank you. Director of Public Works.
We've been asked a lot, and the yard waste bins are now open as of today down at the garage. So if people want to bring their down there, they can for the yard waste bins, and also the curbside collection starts in April.
Thank you very much. Chief of the Police Department.
Just one thing, we're getting repeated calls to the police department from citizens concerned about IRS scams, and thank God everyone realized it was a scam, but it's a huge number of calls we've been getting recently, so just warning the general public to be careful about scams this time of year. And so far so good. In Milton, we're pretty smart.
That could have been our little tagline. Director of the Library.
Our 2014 annual report showed some good numbers. We had increases in our attendance this past year, as well as more events planned. We also had more people coming from outside of the city. We had an increase of almost 20% of Janesville residents and township residents who came to the library over the last year. And as of this week, we're at, I believe it's $506,000 in fundraising, and we're excited for Northside doing the Penny Wars, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Chief of the Joint Fire Department.
Fire Commission meets tomorrow night here at the City Hall at 7 p.m.
Thank you very much. City Clerk.
I just wanted to let everyone know that in-person absentee voting will begin on Monday, March 23rd, and go through Friday, April 3rd. And then Board of Review dates are also being set. Open book will most likely be on Monday, May 4th and Tuesday, May 5th. And the Board of Review is tentatively scheduled for June 17th.
Thank you so much. Finance Director.
We have the annual audit scheduled for the end of the month, so I'm busy getting ready for that. Other than that, nothing.
And our city administrator informs me he'd like to speak again tonight.
Yeah, you can't get enough of me. Through the miracle of modern technology, Inga sent me a text message while she was sitting there to remind people that there is a DDAC meeting also on Friday morning. Friday morning at 8:30. DDAC generally meets on the fourth Friday, but because of spring break, we decided to move it up a week. So March 20th, Friday, March 20th, this Friday at 8:30. And we will have representatives from the state WEDC there to talk to us about Milton being a Connect community, which we are. Connect community at this time, but they're going to give us an overview of what those benefits are to the city of Milton and how we can better take advantage of that resource. So thank you for that text message, and I've done so.
All right. The highlight of every evening is item 15, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Clark, second by Lauder. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.